Namaste, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is James. Now, I know many of you dream of becoming financial analysts, right? Well, one of the very first, most important things you have to understand is, how are businesses actually set up? How are they structured? Don't worry, today we're going to make this super simple. Some of these finance words, they can sound very big, very complicated, right? But please, don't you worry one bit. We're going to make it all very easy to understand. And how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to learn everything by telling a simple story, the story of a small samosa stall. So, shall we begin?
All right, so first things first. Let's imagine a very bright young lady, okay? Her name is Priya. And Priya, well, she makes the best samosas in her entire colony. Everyone loves them. So she thinks, why not start a small business? She starts it all by herself. She is the only owner. This is our very first type of business.
So, what do we call this? It's called a sole proprietorship. The name itself gives a clue, you see. Sole just means one person. So, one person owns it, one person runs it. Simple. That person, the owner, puts in all the money to get started, what we call capital, and in return, they have complete control. But, and this is very important, they are also personally responsible for all of the business's debts. Let's go back to Priya's stall. Imagine this. She uses her own savings, right, to buy the potatoes, the spices, the oil. And when she sells her samosas, every single rupee of profit, it's all hers. She can take it home. But what if it rains heavily one day and nobody comes out to buy her samosas? Well, she has to bear that loss all by herself. So you see, all the profit is hers, but all the risk is hers too. Make sense? No?
Okay, so now a question for all of you to think about. Priya's samosas are a huge hit. They're becoming so famous, people are coming from everywhere. Now she wants to grow. She's thinking, I need a bigger stall, maybe even 2 stalls. But there's a problem. She has used up all her savings. So, where is she going to get the money from? This, my friends, is the biggest challenge for a sole proprietor.
And that very problem, that question of where to get more money, it leads us perfectly to our next step. Priya thinks and she realizes, you know what? I can't do this alone. So she goes to her good friend Arjun and asks him to join the business. And this, students, brings us to our second type of business, the partnership.
So, what is a general partnership? It's really simple. It's just when 2 or more people, join hands. They become partners. Maybe they both put in some money, or maybe one puts in money and the other brings in, say, a scooter for doing deliveries. And because they're partners, they share everything. They share the work, of course, but they also share all the profits, all the losses, and all the responsibilities. They're a team.
So, Priya's little stall isn't just Priya Samosas anymore. Now it's Priya and Arjun Samosas. See? Arjun brings in his savings, and poof, suddenly they have enough money for that bigger stall. It's a great team. Priya is the master chef. She manages the cooking. Arjun is great with people, so he manages the customers. And just like we said, they share the profits, but they also have to share the risk if business is slow. They are in it together, for better or for worse.
Okay, let's take a quick look at this table and compare what we've learned so far. Now, I want you to notice something very important, a similarity. Look at owner liability. For Priya alone and for Priya and Arjun together, it says unlimited. Now, that's a very important word, and we're going to talk all about it in just a moment. Also, look at access to money. It's still limited to what they and their partners personally have. Right, so let's dig into that big word, unlimited liability. I want you to imagine something. What if Priya and Arjun get very ambitious? They go to the bank, they borrow a lot of money, enough to open 10 stalls all over the city. But what if the business doesn't do well? What does this unlimited liability really truly mean for them? What is actually at risk? Is it just the money to put into the business, or is it something more? The answer is no.
It is not just the business money. And this is so important to understand. Unlimited liability means your personal property is at risk. The bank can come and take your house, your car, your personal jewelry, everything. It's very risky. But there is a way to protect yourself, and it's called limited liability. I want you to think of it like a safety jacket, when you go into a deep swimming pool. With this safety jacket on, even if the business sinks, you are safe. Your personal things are safe. The only thing you can lose is the money you invested in the business itself. It's a powerful protection.
So, if Priya and Arjun want to grow really, really big, and more importantly, if they want to get that safety jacket we just talked about, they need a new kind of business structure. They need to form what's called a corporation.
Now, a corporation is, it's very special. The law treats it like a completely separate person. It's not Priya. It's not Arjun. It is a new entity, Priya's Samosas Private Limited. This new person can own property. It can borrow money from the bank. It can sign contracts, all in its own name. And the owners, they're now called shareholders. And guess what? They get that wonderful safety jacket, limited liability.
So you might be asking, James, how do you become an owner of this new company? Well, imagine the whole company is like a big, delicious bar of chocolate. A share is just one of those little squares on the chocolate bar. That's all it is. So when you buy a share, you are just buying one tiny piece of the whole company. And the best part? Anyone can buy these little pieces.
And just think about that for a second. Because the company can sell thousands, maybe even millions of these little chocolate squares, these shares, to people all over the country, or even all over the world. Its ability to raise money, what we call capital, becomes practically unlimited. It's unbounded. They can raise far, far more money than Priya and Arjun could ever dream of raising on their own.
Okay, let's look at our table again. Now it's complete. And you can really see the massive difference, can't you? A corporation is a total game changer. Look at liability. It becomes limited. There it is, our safety jacket. And look at access to money. It becomes unbounded. This right here is how small businesses can grow up to become huge, huge companies.
Now there is one little catch, one downside. It's something called double taxation. Let me explain it like this. Imagine you win a trophy at a school competition, and with it you get some prize money. First, the school takes a 10% trophy tax. Then, you happily take the rest of the money home, and your parents say, "Very good," and take another 10% as a home tax. You see? You're being taxed twice on the same money. That's exactly what happens here. The corporation first pays tax on its profits. Then, when it pays out those profits to you, the shareholder, you have to pay tax on it again. So that's a small disadvantage to remember.
All right, our little samosa business has come a long way, hasn't it? From a small stall to a big corporation. Now, Priya Samosas Private Limited has one more very big decision to make. A choice. Should they keep the ownership of the company within a small, select group of people? Or should they offer their chocolate squares, their shares, to absolutely everyone in the country? This, my friends, is the big difference between private and public companies. Let me give you another simple way to think about it. A private company. It's like a family wedding feast. It's exclusive. Only the invited guests, the family and close friends, can come and enjoy the food, or in this case, invest their money. But a public company? Oh, that's like a huge city food festival. It's open to everybody. Anyone can walk in, buy a ticket, which is just like buying a share, and join the party and become an owner. Let's look at a real-world example just so you see how this works. L'Oreal, the huge cosmetics company, it's a public company. But even so, look here, the founding family still owns a big piece. Another large company, Nestlé, also owns a big chunk. The rest of it, that 44% you see, is what we call the free float. That is the part of the company that's being sold at the big city food festival. Those are the shares that you or I or anyone can buy and sell on the stock exchange. So let's say Priya and Arjun want to take their company public. How do they go from that private wedding feast to the big public food festival? Well, there are basically three main ways. The most common one is called an IPO, or Initial Public Offering. That's where they create brand new shares and sell them to the public for the very first time, usually to raise a lot of money. The second way is a direct listing. Here, the original owners, like Priya and Arjun, just start selling their own private shares to the public. And the third way? An acquisition. This is where an already public company just comes and buys their entire private company. Wow, we have covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We started with just a simple samosa stall, and we've ended up with a huge public company. So let's just take a moment and quickly summarize the most important points from all of this. This is your first big lesson, so let's make sure it sticks. I just want you to remember these 4 key things, okay? First, the simplest business is a sole proprietorship, but remember, the risk is unlimited, no safety jacket. Second, partnerships are great because they let you share the risk and bring in more resources. Third, corporations are powerful. They offer that wonderful safety jacket of limited liability and can raise a whole lot of money. And finally, number 4, public companies. They're the ones that sell their shares to everybody at the big food festival we call the stock exchange.
Excellent. Excellent work today, everyone. You have all been wonderful students. You now understand the basic building blocks of any business. So, now that you have this knowledge, my question to you is this. Which real company are you going to look at first? Maybe a big one like Reliance or Tata Motors or Infosys. Go and find out how it is organized. Because this is how your journey as a financial analyst truly begins. Well done, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is James. Today, we are going to learn something very, very important about business. Imagine you want to start a small chai stall, a simple tea shop. What is the first thing you will need? Before the tea, before the sugar, you will need money, isn't it? So today, we will understand how does any business, big or small, get this money? It's a simple question, but a very important one. Are you ready? Let's begin.
So, this is our plan for today. Just 4 simple steps. First, we'll talk about why a company needs money in the first place. Then we'll look at the 2 main ways it can get that money, either by borrowing or by sharing the profits. After that, we are going to meet the company's bigger family. You'll see what I mean. And last, we'll understand why doing good things is actually very good for business. Don't worry, we'll go slowly, step by step.
All right, let's start with our first topic. A company needs money. You know, every business starts with a simple problem, and that problem is money. Whether it's a huge company like Reliance or our friend Raju's little chai stall, it needs money just to begin. Without that first little bit of money, what we call capital, well, there is no business at all. So this means every single person who starts a business, they have 2 very big questions they must answer. What do you think those questions are? Okay, so the first question is, where do I get the money from? And the second one is, okay, now that I have the money, how do I use it properly to make even more money? Now, today, we are going to focus only on that first question, okay? We will learn all the different ways a business, like our Raju's Chai stall, can find the money it needs to start and, hopefully, to grow bigger. So, moving on to our second topic. Borrow or share the profits. This is about the 2 main paths for finding money. So how does a business get this money? Really, there are only 2 main ways. 1, you can borrow it, or 2, you can offer someone a share of your profits. Let's understand this with some very simple, everyday examples you all will know. Okay, so the first way is called debt. Now, what is debt? Let's imagine. You are at the railway station, and you need to buy a ticket for 100 rupees. You ask your friend, hey, can you please lend me 100 rupees? I promise, next week I will give you back 105 rupees.
Your friend agrees. So you have taken a loan. You must pay back the original 100 rupees. That is called the principal. And that extra 5 rupees, that is called interest. This whole thing is debt. It's a loan for a fixed time with a promise to pay it all back plus a little extra. Simple, right?
Now, the second way is called equity. This is completely different from debt, so listen carefully. Let's go back to our friend Raju and his chai stall. He needs 10,000 rupees. So he goes to his elder sister, his Didi, and says, Didi, can you give me 10,000 rupees for my stall? In return, you will become my partner. You will be a part owner. If we make a lot of profit, we will share it. But if we make a loss, we will share that loss also. Do you see the difference? There is no promise to pay the money back. His sister is now a partner. She owns a piece of the business. This is equity.
Okay, look at this table. It shows us the main differences between debt and equity. With debt, there is a legal obligation. You must pay it back. With equity, there is no such obligation. Now look at claim on assets. We'll talk more about this, but for debt, it's a priority claim. That means they get paid first. For equity, it's a residual claim. They get whatever's left over. The payments for debt are fixed. For equity, it depends on the profit. And see, debt is for a finite time, like 1 year. Equity is permanent. This sister is a partner forever. And finally, the friend who lent you money gets no say in what you do. But the sister who is a partner, she gets voting rights. She can help make decisions. Do you see the big difference? It is lending money versus becoming an owner.
So let's understand that term priority claim a little better. Imagine a small kirana store, a small shopkeeper. At the end of the day, he has collected, say, 500 rupees from customers. But wait, he cannot take that money home yet. First, he has to pay the man who supplied him with milk and sugar in the morning. That supplier has the priority claim. He must be paid first, before anyone else.
Okay, so what about residual claim? Well, let's go back to our shopkeeper. He had 500 rupees. He paid the milk supplier 200 rupees. So, what is left over? 300 rupees, correct? That money which he can now finally take home to his family, that is the residual claim. Residual just means what is left over. So the owner of the business, the equity holder, he gets the residual part, the leftovers. Samajh gaye? Understood?
So, a quick question for all of you. Who is taking a bigger risk here? The friend who lent 100 rupees for the train ticket, or Raju's sister who became a partner in the chai stall? Think about it. Yes, exactly. It is the sister, the partner. The friend will almost certainly get his 105 rupees back. But Raju's sister, if the chai stall fails, she could lose her entire 10,000 rupees. But, and this is important, if the chai stall becomes a huge success, her reward could be much, much bigger than just 5 rupees of interest. So that is the deal. Higher risk, but also the chance for a much higher reward. Now look at this. This shows us what happens when the business is doing very well. On the left, if Raju uses only his own money, that is, all equity, his return, his profit, is 30%. Not bad. But look at the right bar. If he uses some of his own money and borrows some money, debt plus equity, his return on his own money jumps to 60%. It has doubled. How? Because he's using someone else's money to make more profit for himself, and he only has to pay them a small fixed interest. This is a very powerful idea, but there is always a but, isn't there? Look at what happens when business is bad. On the left, with only his own money, Raju still makes a small profit of 10%. He survives. But look at the right. With debt, he still has to pay that interest. He has no choice. And because of that payment, a small profit turns into a big loss of minus 20%. So you see, debt is like a magnifying glass. It makes the good times look much better, but it also makes the bad times much, much worse. Okay, so let's move to our third topic now, the company's bigger family. Because you see, it's more than just the money givers. Until now, we have only talked about the people who give money to the business,
the lenders, and the owners. But tell me, is a business only about them? No, not at all. A company is like a big, big family, and there are many other members in this family. Let's meet them. So let me ask you this question. Think about Raju's chai stall. Is he only responsible to his sister who gave him the money? Or are there other people he also needs to think about? This is a very, very important question in business today. And here is the answer. Look at this list. We have employees, customers, suppliers, even the government, and the whole community. All of these people are called stakeholders. Why this word? Because they all have a stake, meaning an interest in the company. Think about it. The person working at the stall wants it to succeed to keep his job. The customers want good chai. The milk supplier wants to keep selling milk to Raju. The whole neighborhood wants a nice, clean chai stall there. See? Everyone is connected. They are all part of the company's family. So this brings us to two different ways of thinking about business. The old way is called shareholder theory. This says a company's only job is to make maximum profit for its owners. It's like a cricket captain who only cares about the final score. But the new modern way is called stakeholder theory. This says a company must think about everyone, all the stakeholders, the employees, the customers, the community. This is like a captain who cares not just about winning, but also about playing fairly and making the crowd happy. It's about how you play the game. And that brings us to our final topic for today. Doing good is good business. This is the modern view of a company's responsibility. Because, in today's world, the really smart investors, the people who are giving crores of rupees to big companies, they are looking at more than just the profit. They understand that if a company takes care of its whole family, its stakeholders, then that is actually very good for the business in the long run. This idea has a name. It is called ESG. ESG. Let's look at each letter. The E stands for environmental. This is about our planet. How does the company impact it? For a big company, it might be about pollution. But for our Raju's chai stall, it can be simple things. Is he throwing all his paper cups on the street? Or does he have a proper dustbin? These small things matter. They affect the health of the whole neighborhood. Next comes S. S is for social. This is all about people. How does the company treat its people? Its employees? Are they paid on time? Are they treated well? And its customers? Are they treated with respect? A company that takes good care of all its people, its employees, and its customers, that is usually a very strong and healthy company. And please understand, this is not just about being nice. This is about money also. Look at this number. When a company is careless and loses its customers' data, like their phone numbers or bank details, the average cost of just one mistake is almost $4 million. That is a huge amount of money. So you see, this S for social, it has a real impact on the company's finances. And finally, we have G. G stands for governance. Now, what does this mean? Think of it as the rules of the game inside the company. Is the company being run in an honest and fair way? Are the top managers making decisions that are good for everyone? Or are they only trying to fill their own pockets? It's like making sure the captain of the cricket team is not doing any cheating and is playing honestly for the victory of the whole team. And you know what? This is not some new idea. Look at this quote. This is from a very famous economist, Milton Friedman. And he wrote this way back in 1970, more than 50 years ago. Even then, he understood that in the long run, it is in a company's own interest to take care of its community. Why? Because it helps the company build a good name, a good reputation. So, I want to leave you all with a final thought. As you continue your studies and one day become analysts and investors, what kind of questions will you ask about a company? Will you only ask, how much profit does it make? Just looking at the final score? Or will you also ask the deeper question, how does this company treat its family, its entire family of stakeholders? The truth is, the very best analysts in the world today. They ask both questions. Thank you very much. Namaste, everyone, and a very warm welcome. I am James. You know, finance can sometimes feel like a very difficult subject, full of big, complicated words. But don't you worry at all. Today, we are going to make it very, very simple. We'll start with a story that I'm sure everyone here will understand.
Okay, I want you all to just imagine something with me. Imagine you own a small shop, let's say a kirana shop in your own neighborhood. Business is doing well, so you decide you need to hire someone to help you run it while you are away. This simple decision, you see, is where our whole story really begins.
Now, in finance, we have some special names for this kind of relationship. You, the owner of the shop, you're called the principal. And the person you hired to help, that person is called the agent. The agent is expected to work for your benefit, for the good of your shop. It's exactly the same in a big company. The shareholders, the people who own the company, they are the principals. And the managers they hire to run it, they're the agents. Simple, isn't it? All right, a quick question for you just to see if you have understood. In our little shop, if you are the owner, are you the principal or are you the agent? You are the principal. Very good. Brilliant. You see, you are already getting it. Okay, but here's where a problem can come in. Sometimes what the owner wants and what the manager wants are two completely different things. You know, their goals might not match up. Let's see how. So, here is the crucial point. As the owner, your main goal is to make more profit, right? But your manager, he might want to just make the shop bigger and bigger. We have a fancy name for this, empire building, just so he can feel more important, even if it's not actually making more money. You might want to take a bit of risk for a higher return, but he might play it very safe just to protect his own job. Do you see the problem? Their interests are not quite aligned. And another problem can be about power. Let's imagine a cricket team where, say, the captain's family has special powers. They get to make all the big decisions. The other players have no say at all, even if there are more of them. Believe it or not, some big companies work just like that. Now let me show you a really interesting real-life case. Look at this number. For a very big company called Magna International, the founder's family owned only 3% of the total shares. That's a very small amount, you would think, correct? But, and this is the amazing part, because they had special shares with more voting power, they controlled 75% of the votes. Just think about that for a moment. With only 3% ownership, they had 75% of the power. Now, you tell me, does that seem fair to you? Most people would say no. And this is exactly why respected organizations like the CFA Institute, the very exam you are all studying so hard for, are against these dual-class shares. They believe it gives a small group of people far too much power, which is often very unfair to all the other smaller shareholders. So, with all these potential problems, how do we make sure everyone is playing fairly? Well, it's simple. We need a rule book. And in the world of companies, that rule book is called corporate governance. It is the system of rules and practices to make sure a company is managed properly and in the best interest of everyone involved. And this rule book has a team of officials, just like in a cricket match. So you can think of the board of directors as the main umpires, watching everything very closely. Then you have the audit committee, and they check the company's accounts. It's like checking the scoreboard to make sure all the numbers are correct. And other committees are there to choose new directors and decide manager salaries, just to ensure everything is fair and above board. But what if the small shareholders feel the managers or the big owners are just not doing a good job? Well, they have ways to fight back, They can join together with other shareholders to vote against the management. They can propose a new rule for the company to follow. Or if things get very, very serious, they can even take the company to court. So, we have this rule book. But what happens when companies don't follow it? What happens when this corporate governance fails? As we are about to see, the results can be very, very bad. Let me tell you a story about a company called Theranos. It was a very famous company, you see. Its founder promised she had this magic technology that could do hundreds of medical tests with just one tiny drop of blood. It sounded absolutely amazing.
The company became huge, valued at an incredible $10 billion. But there was one very big problem. The technology, it did not work. It was all a lie. And here is the governance failure, the big mistake. The board of directors had many famous people on it, even politicians, but it had no medical experts. Can you believe it? Nobody on the board had the right knowledge to ask the right technical questions. This was a total failure of governance. And in the end, the company completely collapsed and the shareholders lost every single rupee. Let's look at another one. I am sure you have all heard of Volkswagen, the famous car company. Well, they were caught in a huge scandal called Dieselgate, where they had been cheating on the pollution tests for their cars. This poor governance, this cheating, it ended up costing the company more than 32 billion euros. That is a massive, massive amount of money in fines, car recalls, and legal costs. Just try to imagine how much money that is. And what do you think happened to the company's value for its shareholders? Well, as you can guess, their stock price just plummeted almost overnight by more than 1/3. Just like that, in a flash, over 33% of the company's value was completely wiped out. This is the heavy price that companies pay for breaking the rules and having poor governance. But okay, on the other hand, when a company has a good rule book, the benefits are huge. Good governance builds investor confidence, which means people trust the company more. Because of this trust, it actually becomes cheaper for the company to borrow money, and overall, they just perform much better. It is very clear that playing by the rules is actually good for business. So, this brings us to the most important question for you. As you study to become financial analysts, how can you look at a company and tell if it has a good rule book? How can you spot a well-governed company? Here are the key questions you must always ask. First, check the ownership. Does one small group have all the power? Like in that Magna case? Look at the board of directors. Do they have the right skills, unlike Theranos? See if the manager's salaries are tied to the company's success. And finally, ask how well the rights of small shareholders are protected. By asking these questions, you can judge the quality of a company's governance. And please, remember this. Financial statements tell you what a company did, but good governance tells you how and why they did it. Keep that in mind, and you will become excellent analysts. All the very best. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Now, today we are going to talk about something called working capital. I know, it sounds a little bit complicated, doesn't it? But please don't worry, this is not going to be a difficult lecture. Instead, we're just going to understand it with a very simple but very important story, a story all about money.
Hello, my dear students. My name is Jennifer, and today we are going to learn a very simple but important story about money. So, to make it very, very easy, let's just imagine we are all opening our very own shop together. What shall we sell? How about a beautiful sari shop? Yes, let's call it Jennifer's Sari Shop.
Okay, so are you all ready? Let's begin. The first thing we need to understand for our new shop is the journey of our money. Where does it go and where does it come from?
You see, in any business, it is a very simple rule. First, we have to spend money, so cash goes out, and only then, after some time, we earn money, so cash comes in. Our sari shop is exactly the same. First, we must spend our money to buy all the beautiful fabric. And only then, after we make the lovely saris and sell them, do we get the money back. Now here is where it gets interesting. This journey of money, it's not instant, It doesn't happen in one day. Running our sari shop is actually a little bit like a waiting game. And this game has 3 parts, 3 key timelines we need to understand. Let's look at them one by one. So the first waiting time is actually a good one for us. It's called Days Payable Outstanding, or for short, DPO. This is simply the time our supplier, the person who sells us the fabric, gives us to pay him. So he might say, Jennifer, take all this lovely fabric now and you can pay me after 30 days. It's just like our postpaid mobile phone bill, isn't it? We use the phone for the whole month and we only pay the bill at the end. Simple, no? It's very helpful for our shop because it means for those 30 days we can use our cash for other important things, maybe paying the shop rent, for example. Okay, so that is the first waiting time. Are we ready for the next one? Right. The second waiting time is called Days of Inventory on Hand, or DOH. Now, what is this? This is the time our beautiful finished sari just sits in our shop waiting and waiting for a lovely customer to come and buy it. Think of it like this. For Diwali, your mother makes beautiful mithai, no? And that mithai box sits on the table, waiting until a guest comes to the house and finally eats it. That waiting time for the mithai, that is just like the DOH for our sari. Are you all with me? Good, good. So that is the second waiting time. We have one more to go, the last one. This last one is called Days Sales Outstanding, or DSO. Now this one is also a waiting time for us. This is the time we wait to get paid by our customers, even after they have taken the sari home. You know how it is. Sometimes a regular customer will say, Jennifer, I'll take this lovely sari now. I'll pay you next week. This is what the shopkeepers call keeping an udar account or credit. So the time we have to wait for that payment to come, that is our DSO. So there we have it. 3 timelines, 3 waiting games. Let's put it all together now. When we look at all 3, we find something very, very important, something we call the cash gap. And we have to be very careful to mind this gap. Let's look at the journey of just one sari to understand this better, okay? So on day 0, we get the fabric from our supplier. Then on day 30, we have to pay him. Our money, our cash has gone out. But wait, the sari only gets sold on day 90, and the customer pays us on day 100. Do you see the problem? From day 30, when we paid for the fabric, all the way to day 100, when we finally got the customer's cash, our money was gone. That is the cash gap. This cash gap, it has a proper finance name. It's called the cash conversion cycle, or CCC. It's just the total time it takes for our money to go out to buy fabric and then finally come back into our hands from a sale. The formula is actually very simple. You just take the 2 waiting times that are not so good for us, the DOH and DSO, add them together, and then subtract the 1 waiting time that is good for us, the DPO. That's it. And you know, it's not just for our little sari shop. All the big famous companies, they also have to manage this cash gap. Look at Walmart. Their gap is 6 days. But look at this. Target and Costco, their cash gap is a negative number. How is that even possible? Well, let's think about Costco. They sell a lot of food, fresh food, like milk and vegetables, which spoils very quickly. So they have to sell it super fast. That means their inventory days, their DOH, is very, very low. And that is very, very good for their cash. So, here is the most important question. During that long cash gap, when our money is out, life doesn't stop, does it? We still have bills to pay for our sari shop. We have to pay the rent for the shop, the electricity bill, the salaries for our helpers. This brings us to a very important new idea. It's called liquidity. The best way to understand this, just think of our cash gap like a very long train journey. Imagine we are going from Delhi all the way to Chennai. It's a long trip, no? So you have to pack enough food and water to last you the whole journey. You can't just wait until you reach Chennai to eat. In our business, that food and water, that is our cash. We need to have enough cash packed with us to survive until we reach our destination, which is when the customer's payment finally arrives. So liquidity is really very simple. It just means having enough ready cash with you to pay all your short-term bills, like rent and salaries, while you are waiting for money to come in. It's the money that is ready to use immediately. It is just like the money you have in your GPay or your Paytm wallet. It's right there, you can just scan and pay instantly for anything you need.
So just like we go to a doctor for a health checkup, how can we check the health of our shop's wallet? Well, there are 3 simple checks we can do. Think of them as step 1, step 2, and step 3. Step 1 is the current ratio. This is a general checkup. It looks at all the money you can get soon, and it even includes the value of the saris that are still in the shop. Step 2 is the quick ratio. This one is a little stricter. It looks at the money but says, wait, let's not count the unsold saris because it might take time to sell them. And finally, step 3 is the cash ratio. This is the strictest test of all. It looks only at the hard cash you have right now, in the bank or in your cash box.
Okay, everyone. So now we understand this cash gap, and we know we need to have enough ready cash or liquidity to survive it. But the big question is, how can we make this gap shorter? How can we, Jennifer, improve the situation for our sari shop?
Well, the answer is in those 3 timelines we first talked about. We can try to do 3 things. First, we need to reduce our days of inventory, the DOH. How? We have to sell our saris faster, maybe have a sale. Second, we need to reduce our days sales outstanding, the DSO. We should try to ask our customers very politely to pay us a little sooner. And third, we can try to increase our days payable outstanding, the DPO. Maybe we can ask our fabric supplier, sir, can you please give us a little more time to pay?
Now, I want to show you a number that might surprise you. Look at this. Minus 86 days. What could this mean? A cash gap of minus 86? Is that even possible?
Yes, it is very much possible. Some companies are so good at managing their money, they actually get the cash from their customers before they even have to pay their own suppliers. Can you imagine? It's like their customers are giving them the money to run their business. That is the magic of a negative cash gap. So now, I want to leave you with a final thought to think about, okay? Think about our little Jennifer sari shop. What if our Jennifer could sell her saris and get all the cash from her customers before she had to pay her fabric supplier? What would that mean for her business? What could she do with all that extra cash in her hands so early? Think about that. That's all for today. Well done, everyone.
Namaste, students. I am Jennifer. Welcome to our class. Today, we are going to learn about something called capital investments. Now, I know this sounds like a very big and difficult word, but trust me, it is very simple. By the end of our lesson, you will understand exactly how big companies decide where to spend their money.
So, here is our lesson plan for today. First, we will learn why a company has to spend so much money. Then, we will look at the special tools they use to make good choices. After that, we will see how we can give the company a final grade, like a report card. We'll also talk about some common mistakes they make and finish with a very clever way of investing. We will go step by step, nice and slow. Okay, let us begin with our first chapter, a company's big spending. We are starting with the very basics, why companies need to spend large amounts of money in the first place.
Just imagine for a minute, a very big company, and it has thousands of crores of rupees. How does it decide where to spend all that money? It is a huge decision, right? This is the big question we are going to answer together today. So, what is this capital investment? Think of it like this. Imagine your family wants to spend money on something that will last for a very long time, like buying a new house or even just fixing the old scooter so it runs for many more years. That is a capital investment. For a company, it is the same idea, just with much more money. It's a big spending decision for something that will help the business for more than 1 year.
Now, all this big spending usually goes into two big buckets. It's just like your household expenses, you see. One bucket of money is just to keep things running smoothly, to maintain the business. The other bucket, well, that one is for growing the business, for making it bigger and better. Here is a very simple way to remember this. Think of your own home. Spending money to fix a leaky roof is a maintenance project. You have to do it, and you know what to expect. It's not very risky. But what if you decide to build a whole new floor on top of your house? That is a growth project. It's much more exciting for sure, but it is also more uncertain, and the risk is higher, isn't it?
So now we understand why companies spend money. Good. Our next chapter is about how they decide. For this, managers have some very special tools to help them make smart choices. Let's learn about them.
The first and most important tool is called Net Present Value, or NPV. Let's use an example. Imagine you are a shopkeeper. You spend 10,000 rupees today to buy a new fridge for your shop. Now with this fridge, you can sell cold drinks and make extra profit for the next 5 years. NPV simply answers this question. Will that extra profit you earn be more than the 10,000 rupees you spent? That little bit extra, that is your NPV. It tells you exactly how many extra rupees of value you have created.
Let's look at the steps. It is very simple. First, the company lists out all the money it will spend and all the money it expects to get back. Then, step 2, they choose something called a discount rate. This is just the minimum profit that investors are expecting to make. Think of it as the passing mark for the project. Step 3 is to calculate the present value. See, 100 rupees next year is not the same as 100 rupees today, right? So we adjust for that. And the last step? We just sum it all up. In this example, the NPV is positive, which means this project passed the exam.
And the rule is very, very simple. If the NPV is positive, meaning it's greater than 0, the company should invest. If it's negative, they should not. It is that easy. So class, if the NPV is positive, what should the company do? Yes, very good. It should invest. See, you are all getting it.
Our next tool is called the Internal Rate of Return, or IRR. For this, let's think about cricket. You all like cricket, yes? In a match, there is a required run rate to win. That is like our discount rate. Now, the IRR is like your team's potential run rate, what they are capable of scoring. If your team's potential run rate, the IRR, is higher than the required rate, you are in a good position to win the match, no? It's the same for the project.
So what is the main difference between these two tools? Well, NPV tells you how much value you will create. It gives you an answer in rupees or euros or dollars. But IRR, it tells you the rate of return as a percentage. Both are useful, but NPV is usually better because it is always good to know exactly how much money you are going to make, isn't it?
All right, so NPV and IRR are tools managers use inside the company to make decisions. But what about us on the outside? How can we know if the company is doing a good job? For that, we need to look at the company's final report card. This is a grade that everyone can see.
And this report card is called Return on Invested Capital, or ROIC. It is the company's final grade for the whole year. It simply tells us if the management is using all its money, money from the owners and money from lenders, if they are using it wisely to earn a good profit, a good grade. And the great thing about ROIC is that anyone can calculate it. You can find the numbers in the company's public reports. It gives you the big picture of the whole company, not just one small project. And we can compare this grade to what investors were expecting to see if the managers are really doing a good job for them.
Now, having the right tools is one thing, but you must also use them correctly. Even very smart managers can sometimes make big mistakes with money. It happens. So let's look at some of these common mistakes.
Let's go through these. The first one is inertia. This is just a bad habit, doing the same thing as last year without any fresh thinking.
Then there is focusing too much on short-term numbers, just trying to look good today but not thinking about tomorrow. Sometimes managers have pet projects they love, and they choose them with their heart, not with their brain. And a very common mistake is thinking that the cash the company already has is free money. It's not. And look at how powerful this habit of inertia is. A big study found an almost perfect link, a 0.92 correlation, between a company spending one year and the next. This means many companies are just on autopilot, repeating the same spending decisions again and again, without asking if it's still the smart thing to do. And this focus on short-term profits can be very bad. It's like a student who only studies for the small weekly tests, but completely ignores preparing for the big final exam. You may get good marks in the short term, but you will fail what is most important in the end. A company might reject a very good long-term project just because it might make the profits look a little bit lower for 1 year. Okay, class, we are at our last topic. This one is a little more advanced, but it's a very clever way that the really smart companies think about their investments. It's all about being flexible.
And this clever idea is called real options. Let me explain with an example. You know, when you book a train ticket, sometimes you can pay a little extra money for a flexible ticket. This ticket gives you the option to change your travel date if your plans change. You don't have to change it, but just having that choice, that flexibility, has value. That is a real option.
And in business, this flexibility can be many things. It can be the choice to delay starting a project, or the choice to make a successful project even bigger, or to stop a project that is failing. It's all about having choices, so the company can adapt to whatever happens in the future. So the next time you read in the newspaper that a big company is investing thousands of crores, I want you to ask yourself this question. Is this a smart choice they made using their tools? Or is it just an old habit? Thinking about this will tell you a lot. All the best with your study.
Hello, students. I'm James. Welcome to our class. Now, have you ever wondered about the big companies we see all around us, or even the small corner shop in your lane? They all run on money. But where does that money come from? And how do they decide how to get it? That is exactly what we are going to explore today, the capital structure.
And I'm Jennifer. We have planned a simple journey for you today with 4 small steps. First, we'll see how businesses get their funding. Then, we will look at the true cost of that money. After that, a very interesting perfect world idea. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in the real world. Let's begin, shall we?
So, let's start with our first section. Every single company, to get started and to grow, needs money. So the most basic question is always this: where does the cash come from?
Okay, now let's imagine something simple. Let's say you have a wonderful idea for a small kirana shop in your neighborhood. Fantastic idea. But wait, you need money to start it, no? To rent the space, to buy all the biscuits and the soaps to sell? So how will you get this money?
Basically, students, there are 2 main paths. The first path is what we call debt. This is like going to a bank and asking for a loan. You become a borrower. And just like you have to pay your electricity bill every month, you have to make fixed payments back to the bank. For the bank, this is low risk because they expect that payment no matter what. And the second path is equity. Now, what if you go to your friend and say, hey, why don't you put some money into my kirana shop and become my partner? Now, your friend is an owner with you. You don't have to pay them every month. But when your shop makes a profit, you share it. For your friend, this is a higher risk, right? But if the shop does well, they can get a much bigger reward.
Okay, students, a simple question for you. For the person who is giving the money, so for the bank or for your friend, which one is less risky for them? Is it debt or is it equity? Think about it for a moment. That's right, it is debt. The bank's loan is safer for them because you must pay them back first, even if your shop is just starting out.
Exactly, James. So this mix, how much money you took as a loan from the bank and how much money you took from your partner, this mix is what we call the capital structure. You can think of it just like a recipe.
the special recipe for how your business is funded. Very good. So now we know where the money comes from. But you know, students, no money is ever free. There is always a cost attached. So, for our second section, let's ask, what is the true blended cost of all this money a business is using?
This blended cost has a special name in finance. We call it the weighted average cost of capital, or WACC. No, don't worry about the big name. It's very simple. Think of it like making a perfect cup of chai at home. The equity from your partner, that is like the rich, full cream milk. It's very good, but it is also more expensive, no? And the debt from the bank, that is like the water. It is cheaper and you need it for the mix. The WACC is simply the final blended cost of your tasty cup of chai.
And calculating it is also very logical, students. There are just 3 simple steps. First, we find out the cost of our debt, and there is a nice little tax benefit we will talk about next. Second, we see how much weight each part has, meaning what percentage is debt and what percentage is equity. And third, we just add them together to get our final average cost. It's that simple.
So let's look at a real example here. Imagine a company's funding is 30% from debt, which costs 5 rupees for every 100, and 70% is from equity, which is riskier, so it costs 10 rupees for every 100. After you do the simple math, including the tax benefit, the final blended cost, the WACC, is not 5 and it's not 10. It is somewhere in between, 8.2%. This one number tells us everything about the company's overall cost of funding.
Now, I mentioned a little benefit. This is a very important point, so listen carefully. Debt has a secret weapon. You see, the interest a company pays on its loan, well, the government often says you don't have to pay tax on that amount. It's like a discount the government gives you for using debt. We call this the debt tax shield, and it makes debt look even cheaper than it already is.
So, this is very interesting, isn't it? If debt is so much cheaper than equity, and you even get a tax discount from the government, then a very logical question should be coming to your mind. Why don't we just fund our little kirana shop with 100% loans from the bank? Why do we need any partners, any equity at all?
That is a brilliant question, Jennifer, and it brings us perfectly to our third section. 2 very, very clever economists, their names were Modigliani and Miller, they thought about this exact same question, and what they came up with was, well, it was very surprising. This is what they proposed. They said, in a perfect world with no taxes and no costs if the business fails, a company's capital structure is irrelevant. It doesn't affect the company's value at all. Now, wait a minute. That sounds very strange, doesn't it, after everything we just learned? So let's try to understand their logic.
Their idea was like a perfect balancing scale. On one side, yes, you are adding cheaper debt. This looks like a clear benefit, of course. But here is the catch. Let's go back to our kirana shop. If you take a very big loan from the bank, what happens to your friend, your partner? He will get very nervous. Why? Because he knows the bank must be paid first, no matter what happens. So his investment has suddenly become much, much riskier. And because it's riskier, he will demand a higher potential profit to stay. Modigliani and Miller argued that this extra cost of equity perfectly cancels out the benefit from the cheaper debt.
But students, remember what they said. In a perfect world, and we all know we don't live in a perfect world, right? We have to pay taxes, and sometimes, sadly, businesses can fail. So for our final section, let's come back to the real world and see how this balancing act really works. In the real world, we follow a simple idea called the static trade-off theory. Think of debt like adding masala to your food. There is a good side and a bad side. The good part is the debt tax shield. This adds flavor and value to the company. But the bad part is that if you add too much masala, too much debt, it can lead to what we call financial distress. This can spoil the whole dish. So the goal for any company is to find that perfect amount, the optimal capital structure, where the good outweighs the bad.
So here you can see the trade-off in action. As a company adds more debt, the value from that tax shield rises, which is great for the firm, But at the very same time, the potential cost of financial distress, the risk of not being able to pay your bills, also starts climbing. And at some point, that rising risk starts to destroy value and it cancels out the tax benefit.
So we will leave you with a final thought to take away today. The next time you see a company with a lot of debt, ask yourself this simple question. Is this company being clever and maximizing its tax shield, or is it being just a little too risky? As we have learned today, the answer is always in finding that delicate balance. Thank you for joining our explainer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I'm James. Today, we are going to talk about the single most important idea in all of finance, the business model. Please, think of it like the foundation of a building. Every difficult formula, every big analysis you will ever learn, it all starts right here. So here is our plan for today. We will start with a very, very simple shopkeeper. From there, we will build a small framework with just 4 key questions. And then we will use our simple framework to understand a huge company like Tesla. We'll also see how technology is changing all the rules, and we will finish with the most important first step for any new analyst. Are you ready? Okay, let's begin. You see, finance is not scary. Let's forget the big, complicated ideas for a moment and start with some simple, everyday, common sense that we all understand. I want you to just think about the chaiwala, the tea seller, near your college or maybe outside your office. How does he actually make money every day? The answer to this very simple question, well, it's the secret to understanding any business in the world. It doesn't matter if it's a small little stall or a giant company like Reliance. Now, that simple idea of a chai stall, we can actually break it down into a very powerful structure. It's just 4 basic questions. And every single business, everyone, must have an answer for them. So, here they are. The 4 pillars. Who, what, where, and how much. Now, I know for your exams, you need to know the proper finance terms, so we will look at each one and I will connect it to the official word. But don't worry, the idea behind it is very, very simple. First, who are you selling to? In finance, we call this customer segmentation. Now, it's a big word, but don't worry, it's just a fancy way of saying you are grouping your customers. For our chaiwala, are his customers office workers who are in a big hurry, or are they college students who will sit and talk for hours? You see, their needs are totally different. Understanding this, that is customer segmentation. Simple, no? Okay. Second, what are you selling? This we call the value proposition. All it means is, what is so special about your product? Why should I buy chai from this stall and not the one just 10 steps away? Maybe he puts a special masala in it, or maybe he uses very fresh ginger. That little special thing, that is his value proposition. And third, where do you sell? The official word for this is channels. It is simply the place where the customer can get your product. So for the chaiwala, the channel is his little stall on the street. For a company like Jio, when you do a mobile recharge on their website, that website is the channel. It's very simple. And finally, our 4th question, how much do you charge? Now, there are many, many ways to price things. One common way is called bundling. You must have seen this all the time, a chai plus samosa combo for a special price, right? By selling them together, the shopkeeper is encouraging you to buy both things, not just the chai. That's all bundling is. Make sense? Now, here's another very clever pricing model. It's called the razor blade model. Has this ever happened to you? You buy a printer for a very cheap price, you're very happy, but then you find out the ink cartridges cost a fortune. That is the model. You sell the main product, the razor, very cheaply, but you make the real money on all the refills, the blades, that people have to keep buying again and again. Okay, very good, everyone. So now you know the 4 basic questions. Let's see if our simple framework, which we made for a chai stall, can help us understand a huge global company like Tesla. Let's try it.
Now, this is a sentence from Tesla's official annual report. This is how they describe their own business. I know, it sounds very complicated, right? So many big words. But don't worry, we are going to use our 4 simple questions, who, what, where, and how much, to break this down very, very easily. So, first question, who is Tesla's customer? You see, they're not trying to sell to everybody. No. They're targeting very specific groups of people. People with a good income who want a high-status car, people who care about being environmentally friendly, and people who just love new technology. This is their customer segmentation. Next, what is Tesla really selling? If you look closely, it is not just a car. It is the high performance, the beautiful design, the self-driving technology, and, this is very important, their own network of charging stations. It's an entire ecosystem, you know, and that is their powerful value proposition. Okay, so where does Tesla sell? This is very interesting. Unlike Maruti or Hyundai, who use dealerships, Tesla sells directly to you. Their channels are their own website and their own beautiful showrooms in the big cities. There's no middlemen in between. This gives them complete control over the customer experience.
And our last question, how much do they charge? Well, they use what we call premium pricing. Their cars are very expensive. How do they justify this? They say that over many years you will save a lot of money on petrol, but also the brand itself has become so strong, almost like a luxury brand, that people are willing to pay a higher price for it.
All right, let's move on to our next section. The world, as you know, is changing very, very fast, mainly because of digital technology and the internet. And this is creating completely new types of business models that never existed before. Just look at this comparison here. A conventional model, let's say a local restaurant, is tied to its physical location and its growth is steady. It's linear. But a digital platform model, like Zomato or Ola, it's completely different. Zomato doesn't cook any food, and Ola doesn't own any cars. They just connect different groups of users, and they can do this on a massive scale. This allows their growth to be exponential. And a very powerful idea in these new models is something called network effects. Think about WhatsApp. If only you have WhatsApp on your phone, is it useful? No, it's completely useless, right? But when all your friends and all your family members join, it suddenly becomes extremely valuable to you. The more users who join, the more value it has for everyone. This powerful idea is the network effect. We are now at our final section. I want you to please listen very, very carefully. This is perhaps the most important lesson for you as you begin this journey to become a financial analyst. So, the crucial point is this. Please always understand the story before you look at the numbers. The business model, that is the story of the company. The financial statements, the profit and loss account, the balance sheet, they're just like the scoreboard in a cricket match. The scoreboard tells you the final score, but it does not tell you how the batsman played or how the bowler bowled. To be a good analyst, you must first understand the story that is happening on the field. And so, I will leave you with a question for your homework. Think of your favorite company. Maybe it's a food delivery app you use, or a clothing brand you like, or a social media site. Try to use our 4 questions: who, what, where, and how much to describe its business model. This is the absolute best way to practice. Keep learning, and I wish you all the very best.